Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Culler, and today we got Tom Olson with us. He's back from Rhode Island, like the past seven episodes.
In the flesh, when I have made it.
In the flesh. He's not over Zoom anymore, and on some. It's not really. You didn't stay on a beach. You were like. Well, did you stay on a beach?
I was on the beach, did. So I could see the beach from where I was doing the podcast.
Cool.
I could look out the window and I could see the beach, and it was. I did not realize how nice the beaches were up in Rhode Island. You wouldn't think that, but there was people surfing. I mean, it was perfect surf.
Surf and turf.
It was perfect surfing waves. You know, they're not like these gigantic ones you might get in Hawaii, but I was like there was more surfers there than we saw on the east side of Hawaii when we were in Hawaii. I'm sure it's not like North Beach in Hawaii, but when. Right. But it was a nice place. I told my wife I would live here in August and September every year. It's amazing up in the Northeast.
Well, we're glad you were able to record 7 episodes last week with us.
Episodes.
So that was
Plus
awesome.
I was on the Think Realty radio show when we were there. So that's coming up in a couple weeks.
Such a dedicated human being. But anyway, we're glad to have him back. He's back in the office, so that's great. And then we got Brandon Barnes out of Charleston, South Carolina. Brandon, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic. We're just killing it over here. We're excited. We're excited to have you on. So Brandon is the CEO of Home Buyers Network, and he also the way that I'm not sure if you've ever met Brandon. I kind of have not met Brandon. When we got on this interview, this is the first time I've actually talked to him face to face here. But he's a part of Gary Harper's Sharper Leadership Circle, and so I see that stuff all over Facebook, and we became friends on Facebook. We made it Facebook official, and I saw that you did win the Impact Award for Sharper Leadership Circle, which is pretty cool. That's awesome.
I did. Yeah, that was pretty neat. That was the peers voted me that, so I was pretty cool. It was a big honor.
Awesome. And we have a couple of our Mastermind members that are actually a part of that leadership circle as well. Dewey Wynn, which you guys heard a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and then Ken Lacey out of Veterans Path Up, which is pretty cool. So,
and Gary is in our Mastermind.
And obviously Gary is in our Mastermind. We
have a good relationship with Gary.
Absolutely.
We like to make fun of him.
Absolutely. We love Gary to death. But he's been on this podcast a couple times. We're trying to get him back on, but he's like traveling every single day. So
I have to go to North Carolina.
Yeah. So
he lives on an airplane.
Right, that's exactly right. So Gary, if you're listening, eventually we'll get you on here. If we have to meet up at the terminal or something, we'll make it happen.
But a good idea for Gary. He's going to start doing more of those here. So just so you guys know, that idea came from me. If you don't like it, it's my fault.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah. If you don't enjoy coming to Northwest Indiana, Brandon, then it's Tom's fault.
That's
right. I definitely did not pack correctly to come to Northwest Indiana. I wear shorts and flip-flops year round here in Charleston, and it was not quite shorts and flip-flops weather.
It's like 60 out right now. We should be wearing shorts and flip-flops.
Today, I know.
It was nice weather out, man. What in the world? Awesome. So it's great to have Brandon on here. So we'll come back around to him and have him introduce himself, and then we're going to get right into the podcast. We got some great content that's coming your way, so stay tuned. So if you guys aren't ready, make sure you are subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all the podcast platforms. Go to the podcast platform, search for Good Success. You'll find us there. Make sure you subscribe. If you can, leave a review. We would appreciate it if you would. Let us know what you think about these podcasts. Our listenership is going up pretty big. So Tom's super anxious to talk about the next thing, which is the Active Turnkey book, which you're signing some right now.
I'm signing some. So if you order
you're preoccupied.
Week or so, it's very possible you'll get a signed copy. And if you really want a signed copy, just Facebook tag us or maybe tag on this. And
Can you sign mine?
Yes, I will sign yours. So I will sign them, and I even have a little special message for you, and you have to get the book in order to know what the message is.
Oh, I don't know about this message. I'm excited about this, but he signed my book right now. So we're going to send these out, and they are absolutely free. So all you got to do is go to goodsuccess.com/ATK book to pick up your copy. I love that. Wait. Oh, okay. Sorry. I almost gave it away.
Don't give it.
I almost gave it away. You guys can go pick up your book and get the secret message that Tom just put in my book, which it's pretty cool, man. You guys, it's totally worth it. So take advantage of that. Go to goodsuccess.com/ATK book and pick up your free copy of the Active Turnkey book. All we do is ask you to cover shipping costs, and then Tom's going to pay for the book himself out of his own pocket. So take advantage of that. One more time, that's goodsuccess.com/ATK book. And then we have our Mastermind coming up in November. Tom, I am stoked because we have a lot of new attendees. We have a lot of action going down in the Mastermind.
As of right now, we have
as of right now,
attendees that are supposed to be there at this next Mastermind.
I'm super excited. It's going to be great. In Miami, Florida, November 8, 9, and 10. So we're heading down south. We're packing up, heading down south. We're about to buy plane tickets this week, I believe, and get down there.
Just so you know, if you come to Miami, Brandon, like you can wear your shorts and flip-flops.
All right. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. So you guys can check that out at goodsuccess.com/mastermind. We put together an amazing culture there. A lot of great members that are a part of that group. And like we said, we talked about how Gary Harper is a part of our mastermind. He's running the Sharper Leadership Circle, which Brandon is a part of. And then Dewey Wynn and Ken Lacey are a part of Gary's group as well that are in our mastermind. So some great stuff. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Fill out the application there. We don't let just anybody in. We do vet you by the core values that we have, which are community, growth, stewardship, and charity. I always butcher the order of that, but it's the same concept, right? That's what we do. So that's right. That's how we vet you. So you'll either, when we get on the phone, if I'm on my honeymoon, you're going to talk to Tom. If I'm back in town, then you're going to chat with me, and
Josh,
we'll make it happen.
Doing your duties when you're in Iceland.
So are we still doing the podcast in Iceland?
Oh, I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Okay, I'm going to try to make it happen.
For 20 minutes.
Okay.
I'll take over your phone calls during that time.
And Gabby already said it's okay, so we're good to go, man. Like, I'm excited. So we're going to make it happen. But you guys can check out the mastermind at goodsuccess.com/mastermind. And again, the next event is November 8, 9, and 10. We do have a boating activity the night before on the 7th for 4 hours. We're putting everybody on a private boat, and they're going to network hardcore on the boat. And what happens on the boat stays on the boat or goes on social media, whichever you prefer. We would appreciate the free advertising.
It instantly goes on Facebook.
That we could go with that then. So instantly goes on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You publish it, so that's what's going to happen. But you're more than welcome to come to that if you are coming to the mastermind. So we appreciate that. One more time, that's goodsuccess.com/mastermind. One more thing to talk about. We have the Community Go-Giver event coming. It's not really coming up, but it's coming around the corner very quickly. June 26, 27, and 28 of next year. We already have early bird pricing going down. Save a couple $100. Go check it out. CommunityGoGiver.com is where you can pick up your tickets. We're going to come back around and have Tom talk about it a little bit later on. I know he's still putting together, nailing down completely the lineup, but he's already got most of it already made up. So we're excited about that. A lot of great speakers.
Jeffrey Taylor, who also just got confirmed to the Forbes Council for Real Estate, which is really cool as well. So
Jeffrey's awesome
on that as well. But anyways.
Yeah, Jeffrey's awesome. Love it. So we're excited about that coming in hot. So you guys save a couple $100. Go to CommunityGoGiver.com. We only have 80 seats available. We have to sell out. Fire Marshal says no more after 80. So take advantage of that. CommunityGoGiver.com. What'd you say?
We might squeeze a couple more in.
If we can. We might squeeze a couple more in, but I'm the operations director, so I'd be the one that gets in trouble for that. So anyway, one more time, CommunityGoGiver.com. All the links are going to be in the comment section below if you guys are listening on Facebook, if you're joining us on the premiere video. If not, websites, go to them if you're listening on the podcast. So without further ado, Brandon, we're going to stop yakking here, and we're just having a little fun. We like to keep it light and, have some fun and just, promote ourselves while we're doing it. So
what is going on, Brandon?
Yeah. So we're excited to have you on, man. I've seen so much awesome content. If you guys are friends with Brandon on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about. He puts out a lot of great content. You promote people more than I've ever seen anybody do it. I mean, you're out, especially for Sharper Leadership Circle. I see tons of stuff for that, and that's awesome. So do us a favor, brief introduction for the people who don't know who you are. Brief introduction, who you are, what you do, some of your experience, and how long you've been doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to be on as well. Thanks for having me. I definitely enjoy helping other people succeed. That's a big piece for me. So anytime I can share what other things people are doing to benefit them, it definitely makes me feel energized. So again, my name is Brandon Barnes. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I have been a full-time real estate investor for about 2.5 years now. I spent most of my life in food and bev, about 17 years of it. Did everything from a dishwasher, delivery boy to general manager for restaurants. And then I'm married to my wife, Margaret. I have she'll be 3 next Friday. Oh, wow. So I have a 3-year-old daughter, Penelope. And then this is the reason I can't make your mastermind. I have another one on the way, due date November 1st. So I doubt I doubt my wife would let me fly out on November 7th. So, yeah.
I would say we could work something out, but we're not going to mess with that. That's not something we want to tamper with. So yeah.
Yeah. So no more travel for me for the rest of the quarter, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
But so I left food and bev July of 2016. So not quite 2.5 years, but just over 2. We started up a wholesaling business with my business partner, Matthew Bell. And we did some stuff for a hedge fund in the beginning. That really kind of amplified my education really quickly because we instantly went from doing no deals to 20 deals a month because we were sourcing for this big institutional buyer. Since then, we've transitioned to more of a traditional real estate company, flipping, wholesaling, rentals, things like that. So that's kind of where we're at now. And I enjoy, as Josh said, I enjoy giving as much as I can. I will share content, help people as much as possible. And that's what I seek out to do every day. So.
Very cool. He's also got a awesome beard. Like that. That's a great beard. That's a full beard, man. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think him and Aaron.
Yeah, I was going to say his only competition would be Aaron Chapman. Like his is like peppered. So it's like gray and black. Yeah. It's legit.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what I can get by the end of the year, and then get it back up. But yeah, have some fun with it.
We'll have you back on so we can report back on that and follow up with the beard. So
I think we ought to have a contest with him.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get into this interview. We got some awesome questions coming down the pipe here. So we're gonna kind of kick this off a little bit different than what we normally do. So normally we get into your business and talk about like what you're doing, what things are working for you, stuff like that. But when we were chatting over Facebook Messenger, you shot me some topics that you enjoy talking about. And one of the first ones that you said was personal development. So for you, why is it so important for personal development, whether it's reading books, listening to podcasts, going to Mastermind yourself, stuff like that? Why is it so important to develop and innovate yourself to benefit your business?
Yeah. So for a good portion of my life, I did not pay attention to self-development at all. And that was my years of food and beverage. I didn't read books. I didn't try to elevate my education level. I was focused on my job and being as good at my job as I can. And that was it. And then as I transitioned to real estate, my business partner, mentor, Matt, kind of got me into reading and starting to think about who I am and what I can provide. And it kind of goes back to the saying when you're on an airplane, and the oxygen mask drops first. You put it on before you help anybody else. And it took me a year to a year and a half to realize that I cannot help build my team. I can't help my wife. I can't help my daughter if I don't start paying attention to myself. And that's, both fitness, education, different mindset, just different things that you have to pay attention to before you can help others. So started my journey kind of with Miracle Morning, the Hal Elrod book. A lot of people have spoken about it. I tried to implement lifesavers kind of right out the gate. Some things that I failed with is I was getting up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and I was falling back asleep during meditation and reading. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd start it, and then I'd fall asleep on my recliner or chair wherever I was reading.
Had you ever woken up at 4 or 5 before that?
Not on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but now I actively wake up at 4 now, so I'm a little more used to it. But prior to that, so it took me a while to kind of develop my personal routine. So I started studying. I think it was John Martinez and his Midwest Revenue Group. Actually, somebody started a Facebook thread on people's routines in the morning, and I really got a ton of value out of that content because a lot of people who are successful in this industry and successful in other industries talked about how they shape what a day looks like for them based on their needs. Some people, it doesn't make sense to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because they have more things that they have to tend to later in the evening or vice versa, and certain things like that. So that was kind of my next step to understanding what fits me. I try to just do everything in order, meditate, read, affirmations, kind of, just whatever Hal said. And it just wasn't, I wasn't getting fulfilled by it. I wasn't feeling energized. I didn't feel like it was working. So I shut it down and kind of went back to my old ways. Didn't really do a whole lot with it. And then that's when I came across John's stuff and that Facebook thread. And that's when I started realizing I gotta figure out myself and my own routine. I can't use Josh's routine. I can't use Tom's routine. I'm Brandon. And that's the only way that I'm going to, make myself successful this way.
That's awesome. We love John Martinez. We actually just had him on the podcast. Well, it's going to be airing probably a couple podcasts before this one airs, but we recorded it last week, again, while Tom was in Rhode Island. But anyway, I personally love morning and night routines. Like I could spend an entire hour on just how important those are. And Tom told me about Miracle Morning, and I know you've read it and you love it to death. And it really helped me personally. So I think morning routines are absolutely huge, especially when it's taking control of your day. You're controlling your day instead of just waking up whenever you wake up, whenever you're not tired anymore. And going through those routines, it's just, for me, I used to have crashes at 3:00 every single day before I implemented any kind of routines. Now that I have routines, never. I'm energized throughout the entire day, and that's awesome.
I agree with you. And go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just going to say, it's kind of like what you already alluded to, though, Brandon, is we have to know ourselves. Mm-hmm. So the morning routines are great. The night routines are great. I do think that you ought to be the master of your first hour. I think too many times we catch ourselves like getting right on our phone right in the morning, and we suck all of our endorphins out of that, and then like we only can make so many good decisions in a day anyway, so it's kind of like we've made all of our good decisions on stuff that doesn't really matter instead of putting things into action that do matter. But you have to know yourself and know like what your own personal core genius is. You'll never be a success in life unless you know what your core genius is. And I believe I always want to take it a step farther, because as a leader, I feel like your job as a leader is to, number one, know your core genius, but then number two, try to push people into their core genius and to try to get them doing the things that are most productive, and actually let them be more valuable to you as maybe an employee or as a leader, but also more valuable to the world. And I was just reading watching a thing last night with Jim Rome, and he says like, you don't get paid by the hour. Even if you get paid by the hour, you're not really getting paid by the hour. You're getting paid by the value that you bring. And to me, like, if money is a very easy way to quantify that. So you have to study yourself, and self-development is more about being self-aware of what's really good for you and how you can make it work.
Yeah. I agree with you. You gotta sit back. So I released a blog post this morning about it, and you have to take time to sit back and evaluate. Is this working? How am I feeling? What's it doing for me? Because if you just get into a routine and don't analyze it and don't understand it, then you don't know if getting up at this time or doing that, you don't pay attention to how much you're on this thing. If you don't actually sit back and reflect and kind of pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So then outside of morning routines, what are some other things that you have done personally for development? I know you talked about books. We love books here.
Yeah.
If I turn the camera here, we got a stack of about 60 books right here that we give to our Mastermind members for monthly gifts. So what are some things outside of morning routines that have significantly helped you in development to benefit yourself and your business?
Yeah. So, investing in masterminds has been a big piece for us. I went into this real estate journey, I guess, with the mindset that a lot of people have in the beginning is that gurus, and I don't even like to use the word anymore now that I know people in that industry, gurus and paying for education, doing these kind of things, you don't have to do that. It's, you can get all of this on your own, until I started going to events, like the masterminds that we're in, and understanding that there's so much more out there that I have no understanding of. I don't know what people are doing. I don't know where I'm lacking in our company or personally until I started investing, in ourselves and our team. We believe in continued education for our entire team. We want them to be in the sales training. We want them to go to masterminds with us. We want them to, if they come across an education that they feel that they need to help bring value to our company, we want to invest in them to help grow that position and become an
asset for you.
Expert, become an expert in that for our company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then a second thing that I've done and this is more recent, probably in the last month. This is actually what I shared on at the Sharper Leadership Circle, was having a gratitude routine. So I have a gratitude journal that is kind of the first, before I turn phones on, before I do anything. The first thing I do is just think about things that I'm grateful for every morning. And I feel, if you're grateful for stuff when you start the day, how can you have a bad day? And just kind of continuing that notion every day. Since I've started it, there have been bad things that have happened. There have been tough times, but in the grand scheme of it, I haven't felt like I've had a bad day in probably over a month. And I think that was a good mindset shift for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I think that just the action of gratitude has been like the key differentiator for me living a happy life, like a fulfilled, happy life. Because when you, The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, in that book, he talks, there's like almost an entire chapter that Stephen Scott writes in that. And one of the statements he says is something to the effect of, envy is you taking your eyes off of what you have and focusing it on the things that you don't have. And that is huge. That's envy versus, or that's either entitlement or complaining versus gratitude. And most people don't realize that gratitude is the action of thankfulness. So you talked about having a gratitude routine. That's like actually doing it. And I know even Aaron Chapman, we had him on a few episodes ago, maybe it's like 25 episodes ago now. But he talked about gratitude, and we're trying to get it nominated for a TED Talk and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. It's just the view from that, and how gratitude can just affect, you said your day, but like the entire life, like in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, I think that's huge.
What's more important is the actual habit of doing it every single day.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
So I don't know the answer to this, so maybe this is, but when you actually write those down, do you ever tell those people that you're thankful for them during the day? Because that's something that I've instituted. So every single day, I try to at least tell one person I'm grateful for them and why I'm grateful for them. If they did something for me, great. If I'm just grateful for them for being a friend over the years, that's fine. But every day, just reaching out to those people and saying, hey, I'm thankful for you. Thank you for this. I also do an encouragement daily. So some people just need to be encouraged. And I say, hey, I just want to let you guys know I'm praying for you, or I'm thinking about it. If you need something, let me know. So that encouragement is kind of something else that I think if you could be grateful, yes, that's great. That helps you. But then try to pass that along and be an encouragement to people every single day as well. I think if people will put those two habits in their life, it'll completely change their outlook on the way that they think about everything, really.
I agree with you. I played big into that. I have my thank you cards, and basically I try to send out 5 thank you cards every week. And I think of people that I'm grateful for, that have helped me, impacted me, and it doesn't have to be business. It doesn't have to be this world-renowned thing. For instance, when we were at the Sharper Leadership Circle, one of Gary's staff members, so I'm active keto. So I eat a ketogenic diet plan. And they accommodated all of my food the entire time I was there to make sure whatever was being catered had a keto-friendly meal. Something that they didn't necessarily have to do. And I didn't request it. I just mentioned that there's, I'll pay for it myself. I'll do whatever. And every single meal, they made sure that, I could eat something appropriate. So that was really impactful for me. And so I remember to leave a thank you card and things like that. And so I think telling people that you're grateful for them is very important. And the encouragement thing just kind of started that, but it makes sense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. That's some great stuff. Awesome way to kick off this interview. That's kind of what I was shooting for. So really good stuff. So kind of switching tracks now, let's go back into focusing on the business. So
yeah.
So we even talked about it earlier a little bit, but you're in Charleston, South Carolina, but you also are in other markets. So you're in Columbia, South Carolina, Jackson, Mississippi, and then Augusta, Georgia, and I'm sure you're a part of other markets as well. So for you specifically in your business, how is it possible to operate your business in multiple markets like that? Like, what are some things that you have set up to be able to even like do that and manage it?
So the biggest thing that we have set up is my business partner, through his background, had an extensive connection with renovation managers, or GCs, as everybody else calls them, basically kind of throughout the southeastern portion of the United States. And so we have multiple markets that we have contractors in that, kind of help us and our eyes on the ground. And so basically a lot of stuff that we do other than Columbia and Augusta, we do everything else virtually. And even 90% of Augusta, we do virtually. I think I drive up there once a month to walk homes and do things like that. Like we have a flip coming on the market next week that none of us have ever seen. And it's just our GC and kind of some quality control stuff in place. But I think the biggest thing that helps us is having that relationship with our GCs or renovation managers to kind of help us understand that.
So what are some things that you've done to build those relationships?
So that's all. I have to give all the credit to my business partner who's not on this call. Okay. So basically his experience with the hedge fund, the institutional buyer that we kind of started with, he was head of renovation for their entire company. And so he renovated about 5,000 homes in 4 years. And basically through that time, he built up a large database of GCs and subs and different positions. And so we've kind of utilized strategic partnerships with who we felt are the contractors that align with us and our values the most.
Gotcha. So are there any, I'm sure there are. Are there any downfalls, any pitfalls, any things that happen with actually like being in multiple markets like that you're like, that's frustrating, that's a struggle, but here's how I've worked through that?
I think one of the biggest things that we learned in the beginning, so we've wholesaled a property in like 14 different states, 13 or 14 different states so far. But one of the biggest things that we realized in the beginning was we weren't set up to be in multiple markets as far as cash flow wise. So as wholesaling, you have a big upfront, cost for your marketing. And basically when we first started, we didn't have an infrastructure to handle the leads that we had coming in. And so 1 month, one market would close deals, but another market wouldn't. And so what we were doing is rolling that profit into this city and vice versa, kind of all the way across. And so I talked with it was Mark Evans, actually, and I was kind of telling him what our goals were. And he said, hey, listen, man, what's your goal to do per market, per city? And I told him what it was. And he said, then you need to shut down all your cities. And until you can do that in one city, you don't need to be anywhere else. And so that's what we did is we kind of went singular focus into one city, set a goal. And once we hit that number back-to-back months, we rolled open another city again. We just kind of reopened what we had. And so that's the biggest thing I'd pay attention to if you're going to go into multiple markets is be prepared and have something already sustained. So you're not using it to kind of cash flow something else. Because if both markets struggle, then you're going to deplete that bank pretty quick.
Gotcha. Awesome. So then I saw obviously you being a part of Sharper's leadership circle. So you've implemented processes, systems, and all that stuff.
I'm doing my best.
Kind of.
I'm the visionary. We don't really have an integrator, so okay. I do the best that I can. So, but yes, we've definitely come a long way in that.
Okay, great. And does that help out with the actual being in multiple markets then?
It does, yeah. So we have all of our process maps and standard operating procedures kind of set for each city. And so our virtual assistant team, our acquisition managers, closing coordinators, all the cities pretty much operate the same. They just need to know a little bit more about the different title companies or attorneys we work with and different nuances between market by market stuff. But yeah, it's helped us kind of streamline all the cities together without having a lot of breakdowns.
Gotcha. Okay, so then you talked a little bit about marketing and marketing to the different markets that you were in, and then you shut down and brought it back in, and now you're back out to a few of those. So let's talk about marketing a little bit, specifically Absolutely. Direct mail. So what are some strategies that you're doing with direct mail? Is it working? Is it mediocre? Is it not working? Give us a little bit of feedback on your marketing with direct mail.
Yeah, so we have really kind of focused on direct mail. We've done pay-per-click. We got a little bit of Facebook stuff going on. But the thing that we've kind of learned and fine-tuned within our company is the direct mail process. And basically what we've done through some help of other people is list building basically. And our kind of goal, which I kind of took into this in the beginning, was trying not to purchase lists. Obviously, some things you have to purchase. You can't get around it. You just don't have access to the data. But our goal is to get into the municipalities, get into the counties, get what we can on the internet, and build our list versus going and buying the list on list source and listability that everybody else is. So I think that's been one big advantage for us is we buy as little lists as possible. So we're constantly keeping fresh data every month instead of somebody who's buying a list in January, updating it in June or 4 months or whatever their time frame is. Every month we're rolling in new data and just kind of adding into our mail pieces. And then basically we take our mailers and we drop them through a 6-piece kind of mail touch where they get a variance of postcards and letters. And the beginning is kind of high response rate stuff. And then as we funnel down a lot of people that don't actually want to sell their house, we get more targeted with more specific kind of letters based on their list, which costs a little bit more money. So we don't want to send the bulk if we don't have to. And then the number one list is working for us. And I've talked to multiple investors, is still driving for dollars. It's the hardest one to scale. It's the hardest one to understand. But driving for dollars, cost-wise is definitely the best list still out there.
Can you kind of talk about driving for dollars a little bit and what that is and how it has worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I keep this is my driving for dollars notebook, and basically we just scratch all of our addresses in there, and kind of I take a picture of them, send them my VA, and then they go and look up the mailing addresses. But basically, kind of what we have is every time we're going to a property or we're going in a market, we spend time before or after going to properties, driving the neighborhoods that we're already identifying houses in. So we try to, look for stuff like 2 satellite dishes on a house. Usually indicates some form of a rental property because somebody's just dropping something new on top of it, or financial distress. The signs like the grass is too high and things like that are pretty obvious stuff, but it's more the little nuances that we look for. Like if the front yard is cut, I try to pay attention more to the backyard because a lot of times neighbors will cut people's yards in the front because they don't want their house to look like crap. And so, we pay attention more to the backyard. And so our team, all of us have notebooks, and basically we write down addresses that we identify that we'd want to buy. And our VA team kind of scrubs the data and drops it in our mail list.
And so you're saying that has been kind of the best results for you, produced the best results for you when it comes to marketing for that?
It is. It's the highest response rate probably on our direct mail. I haven't looked at it in the last couple of weeks, but our direct mail driving for dollars is probably a 10 or 11% response rate. And we've seen that we buy a lot. Like if you look at the percentage for the mail that we send to the properties that we contract, it's a much higher percentage for driving for dollars versus a Google Pick Card or Pink Doodle or something like that.
So you're saying, when you're doing the driving for dollars, you check out the property, you take down the address, which is the reason why you have those notebooks. You're sending it to your VA to scrub the data, and then you apply the direct mail to those qualifying properties.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that to a certain degree here. All of our employees have a incentive to give us these types of leads, and if we actually close on those houses, our employees get a $500 bonus if we actually buy those houses. So I know we've purchased at least 2 or 3 already since the last 6 months that we instituted. It's not really,
and those are people that's not their job to be acquisitions.
They're out looking at houses anyways, or helping get utilities turned on, or whatever the case is. And if they see a house, they can just write down the address, take a picture, and send it to us. So I know it works. It's something that I think people ought to be doing more often. And it's kind of like, it's the harder lead to find. It's a harder lead to get. But like you said, on the back end, it's cheaper from a per lead standpoint. But it definitely is a lot warmer lead normally because you've already laid eyes on something that you can tell that there's distress somehow.
And it definitely helps having a larger team to be out and looking for that. So.
And also, life's all about instant gratification. And so a lot of people that are in this game right now, they just want to be able to buy the list as quickly as possible, upload it to wherever their mail house is, and just get it moving. Where there's not, from my understanding, there's not as many people, beating the streets every day. I mean, I still personally, it's not something I do every day. I don't do it for 6 hours. But every week I'm adding driving for dollar stuff into my list because I know it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So then let's talk about another thing that you mentioned, which was list building. So you mentioned that you don't buy lists, which is totally understandable. And you kind of went into that a little bit. But what are some things that you're doing to actually build your list then for, besides the driving for dollars? I know you went a little bit into it, but let's go a little bit deeper into how some strategies that you're working on besides driving for dollars to build lists for yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do buy, so I don't want to say that we don't ever buy lists, but our main focus is building. So we use list building software, and we take, I regret not having this thing a year ago because I don't know how many lists that I've purchased that I don't know where they're at this point. Probably data that I lost. But we basically take every list that we build or buy and drop it into our list management software. And one of the big things starting off with is to prevent you from sending multiple mail to the same person. Because a lot of people are multiple checkpoints. They're on probate lists. They're on tax. They're on, behind on taxes, tax lien stuff. They're in code violation. They're absentee. I mean, you got to think somebody inherits a property in Rhode Island that's living in Columbia. What are the odds that they're cutting their grass if nobody's living there? They're absentee. They're probate. So they're going to check all the boxes. And so from a cost perspective, it saves us from potentially sending a lot of excess mail. And when we, our goal is to hit 25 to 30,000 pieces per city a month. And so we're trying to hit that without mailing the same person 5 times. And so we started with that. That was kind of our first thing is like, hey, let's just weed out some of our numbers of mailers and actually focus on one person and mailing them one card instead of 5. And it's been a big savings. We see anywhere from, 500 to 1,000 people drop off a list because they're on multiple pieces. And when you add that at 30, 40 cents, 50 cents a piece, if you're sending a letter, that's a lot of money over a monthly span when you mail every month. And then the next kind of piece that we like with our list building is the way we have everything in our software. When a lead comes in, our VA team actually looks in the software and understands where that lead came from. So when the VA is taking the call, they know if it's a probate lead, they know if it's a code violation and things like that. So for an acquisition standpoint, we can kind of guide them down a path of questions that make sense for their situation. Where if, I'm talking to somebody in probate that doesn't have any issues other than, they live 500 miles away and they don't want it, and I'm trying to guide them down another path, and we're not going to connect on a level that we need to get the house. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of the biggest 2 things that we've implemented in the beginning. The next thing that we're doing is stacking it. And once it gets to a certain number, which is 3 lists or more, we're actually going to start sending out more of a personal letter to those people. That's kind of like a first-class stamp, handwritten envelope on the outside. So, hopefully open up that response rate a little bit more.
Awesome. So then what you mentioned a software you're using for the direct mail. What do you mind sharing what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. We use Property List Manager. It's I think Robert Seifert and Joe Taylor, I think, are the guys that are behind that. It does some cool stuff. I think it has skip tracing in there now. It records your vacants. So it runs it through the USPS mail service. And so if you load your list in there and that house is no longer receiving mail, it lets you know, and it'll either give you a forward address or you can pull that list out and skip trace it. So it prevents you from sending, we dropped mail, one of our lists yesterday, and I think it dropped out like 800 names that the houses were vacant. So, so that saves you on your mail pieces as well.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we got one more question, then we're going to go to our later round of questions here. We got to wrap it up here. We have another podcast after this one with Roger Blankenship out of Atlanta. So it's been an awesome interview, though. You provided tons of value for our listeners, so we appreciate you doing that. We'll definitely have you back soon, and we look forward to building a relationship with you. So the next thing is, so we talk about wholesaling, fix and flip, buy and holds, like any kind of turnkeys, any kind of investments that you can do with real estate assets themselves. For you, you're doing wholesaling and fix and flipping.
Correct.
Which one do you like the best? Like, which one do you enjoy doing more? Maybe it's more profitable or whatever. And why did you pick that one?
So today's probably a bad day to ask that question because we've had inspections on like 3 flips.
Okay.
And so we're getting inspection addendums right now and having to go through and get all that stuff done. So we actually just started flipping probably about 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
And it was just to give ourselves a couple more properties that we weren't necessarily able to wholesale. So we were coming across some of those deals that were, right at that 70% rule, which is where we still have to buy in our market. And so a wholesaler, you're going to do the rule minus reno minus your wholesale fee. Well, the problem was we were unable to kind of capture that wholesale fee. And we had some stuff in our pipeline. So we basically lined up some capital and decided, we had the renovation crews. So let's start flipping. And so we have 8 total so far in the last 3 or 4 months. It's not something that's a big part of our business. And I'm starting to lean more towards, I understand why people wholesale more than flip. It's really good. It definitely can be more profitable, but when you kind of look at it in the grand scheme of how long it takes to complete the process, versus your time spent and dollar per time versus wholesaling a property, I definitely think the wholesaling is a better tactic for that reason. It's especially in our markets where we operate, we sell to primarily FHA buyers. So when we have to deal with the 90-day deed seasoning and FHA requirements, 2 appraisals, inspections, things like that, it takes us 4.5 months, 5 months to close a property that we probably could have wholesaled, made 40% of our profit on the flip and sold it, in 2 or 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
So.
Awesome. So then for wholesaling specifically, what are a couple of things that you've discovered that maybe you didn't know when you first got into wholesaling that you know now that maybe you'd be willing to share with our audience?
Yeah. So my view was definitely skewed at wholesaling. I thought it was really easy. I thought, I had this institutional buyer with hundreds of millions of dollars behind them. And they said, hey, if you find anything in this box, I'll buy it. And that's all I did. I just went out and hunted for it, and it was easy. I didn't have to really get into negotiations. I didn't have to have this pipeline full of people because they paid more than most people for rental properties. And so, I was negotiating, $4,000 or $5,000. I wasn't negotiating $20,000 between what people were asking. So I definitely was skewed at it in the beginning. And February, March of this year is when we kind of transitioned into our doing it on our own and not being backed by this institutional buyer. And it was a massive learning curve for us. First, it was a mindset shift. I can't say that today because our team was completely built on understanding, hey, this is what they pay for it. As long as we get it here, we're good, and we got a fee. And so we actually had to let go of pretty much of our entire team because they kept going into houses and saying, well, this person would pay this for it. And I'm like, well, we don't do that anymore. We get it for ourselves. I've been kind of a new wholesaler over the last 6 months. But what I've learned is you have to spend the time building the rapport and getting on an emotional level with these sellers. Everybody thinks it's price. Everybody thinks it's all these other things. And the most success that we've had with our sales, and it's a big thanks to Midwest Revenue Group and John, is building rapport and emotional selling. And that's wholesaling, that's flipping, that's anytime you're going direct to seller. And, to me, that's the biggest thing that I've learned. Because I used to think, hey, I can offer you cash quickly. Well, so can everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I need to figure out different ways that I can get the deal. And, we've definitely are starting to get deals that are $10,000 and $15,000 below what other people are offering. But it's because we're offering a whole different side to them than just, hey, we can buy your house. And so I think that's one of the biggest thing I'd focus on as a wholesaler is dial in your sales process and come at it from a value add emotional standpoint, and don't come at from a comps renovation ARV, which is what all I knew for the first year and a half I did this.
Very cool. Yeah. John talked about that on our show, talked about the emotional brain and all that stuff, the whole science behind it. And very interesting stuff.
So if you're doing 25,000 mail pieces per area, like how many deals do you expect to get out of that per month?
So right now we expect 3 contracts a week per city. So 9 contracts a week. And we just kind of ramped to that number probably in the last 3 or 4 months. Cause it basically, when we shut down our institutional stuff in February, March, and we had to let everybody go, We basically kind of started back from the beginning. We had to build a team. We had to build an infrastructure. So we didn't want to drop a ton of mail because we didn't have anybody to handle it. Now we're up to 7 VAs, 3 acquisition managers, 2 closing coordinators. And so we're trying to pump up back our volume. But basically kind of our math is the mail, we return somewhere around 4 to 7% on our mail. And out of that pipeline, what works for us is we want to make 10% of our phone calls a day into offers. If you make 50 phone calls, we want you to make 5 offers. And the reason we value that is because we don't just want to make offers to anybody. That's what they speak about in the training is you have one piece that people need, and that's their offer. So we hold it until they're ready to give us a yes or a no. And so we want to make 10% of that. And then if we make 10% of our offers on calls, it yields about 3 contracts a week per city.
So 25,000 mail pieces per month per city accounts for about
12
deals. Okay.
Correct.
Cool.
Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No, that's good.
Okay.
Very good. We appreciate you expounding on that. All right, so we are going to have to wrap this up. We got our final 2 questions here that I did not prepare Brandon for, so I'm super interested to hear what he has to say. So these are questions that we ask every single interviewee that we get on the show here, and these are not like far-fetched, questions or whatever. It's stuff that in the back of your mind, so it's not going to be too difficult. So for us, the term "good success" means a lot to us. We have our own meanings for it and everything. You're a little bit newer to us, so maybe you don't know as much as anybody else that's been on the show knows about us. But when you hear the term "good success," what does that mean to you?
I really think that is the value that you provide to other people. I think that you become I don't focus on my success. I focus on everybody else's around me. Basically, I was taught that if my team's successful, my wife's successful, my child, my parents, everybody around me, if they're successful, I have nothing that I have to worry about. And so that's what I focus on good success is, that's what comes to me is to help other people around me be successful because then I know that I'm okay. And so that's kind of what comes to my mind immediately.
Love that. That is awesome. Fantastic answer.
I would call that the right kind of success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nailed it. All right, cool. So you got to leave our audience with one thing, whether that's a quote, a statement, a thought, maybe a resource, something you've learned recently. One thing you got to leave the audience with. What would that be?
Yeah. So I actually, Tom, you talked about this in the beginning, and I actually want to make sure I say it correctly. But I'm reading the John Maxwell book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions.
Yes.
And one of the things that he talked about, you said it earlier, was comforting people. It's not just about the gratitude piece of it. And so one of the things that I want to leave people with is if you have team members and you have people that you're influencing daily, and we all do, even if you're a solopreneur or whatever that term is, reach out to people and see what you can do for them today to make their job easier, make them more successful, and how can you help them be better for the team, and start your day with that. I think that's really important. I think it lets the team know, it lets the people in your life know that you care about them. And again, it goes back to my beliefs that if I take care of the people in front of me, then I don't have anything that I have to worry about. So I'll leave you with that quote from John Maxwell is find out what you can do to make their job easier, to make them more successful, and help them be better for the team.
Love it.
Awesome.
I know that was one of the first books that you read, Self-Help or something like that, right?
That's a couple years ago, but I like that book. I like the whole concept of leaders just need to ask more questions most of the time, but good leaders do ask good questions.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great answer. Great stuff. So, Brandon, we appreciate you being on. We look forward to having you back soon. I mean, this is a great interview. You definitely provide a lot of value to our audience, so we appreciate you taking the time to do that and being with us. And we look forward to meeting in person at some point soon. Yeah. And congratulations on the upcoming baby here in November. So we're excited about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Sounds like you got a honeymoon coming up soon, so congrats on that. And I look forward to meeting you guys in person here probably, after sometime in 2019 when I'm allowed to fly again.
Yeah, when you're allowed to travel.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. That is going to do it for today's episode. Brandon, again, we appreciate you being on. We look forward to having you back. So before you guys go, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. Go to the podcast platform, search Good Success, and then subscribe there. If you can leave a review, please do so. We would appreciate you doing that. And then the Active Turnkey book. So Tom signed this one for me, so you can't have this one, but he's got a stack over here, and then we have another stack of books out here that you guys could have. So Tom personally signed these, and he bought these out of his own pocket. He's giving it to you for free. Go to goodsuccess.com/ATK book to pick up your free book. All you got to do is cover shipping and handling costs, and then Tom's going to pay for the book. Awesome value, a lot of great content that is in there, so make sure you take advantage of that. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/ATK book. ATK is an active turnkey. Go get yours. All right, so the next thing is the Good Success Mastermind, November 8, 9, and 10 coming up in Miami, Florida. We're excited about it. Got a great group that is coming. I'm very excited, Tom. It's going to be great event.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great. So November 8, 9, and 10, we do have a boating activity, like I said earlier, on the 7th, which is 4 to 8 in Miami. So if you guys come, you're more than welcome to join us on the boat for some awesome networking that's going to go down. You guys can go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind to learn more about it. Fill out the application there. You'll talk to either myself or Tom. We'll learn more about you, see if it's a great fit. So goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Last but not least is the Community Go Giver event. Early bird tickets are already on sale. More details about the event coming out soon, but you can go save a couple $100. Come to the event. We only have 80 seats available. CommunityGoGiver.com is where you can pick those up. So that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. We appreciate you joining in. And remember to be a conduit, not a bucket.
Work to have to give.
Catch you guys on the next one.